Welcome, lovely one, to the Meant for More podcast. My name's Lisa Clifford, and I am building the world's most empowering Meant for More movement, leading millions of heart-led purpose seekers from feeling insignificant to invincible. So I truly hope you enjoy this next episode. And welcome to Craig White. Craig has spent more than 3 decades coaching at the highest level of professional rugby and professional football. And with private clients and teams in the corporate space, he's coached at the pinnacle of international rugby with the British and Irish Lions. He's worked with the English Football Premiership and helped London Wasps and Leicester Tigers to dominate English rugby in the early 2002. And he has guided international rugby teams in their preparation for 5 Rugby World Cups. His work is also really immersed in working with men, professional men who he helps be the best them, which he does through retreats, through one-on-one coaching. And I think he is helping future generations have men who are able to be their true selves, free of the perceptions of what's been passed down to them. And I think he's the perfect man for that job. So I hope you will enjoy our conversation. And welcome, Craig. I feel like I have to share with everybody how I would know such an amazing man. Craig and I met at a wedding, and what was fascinating and hilarious is that we were meant to sit next to each other at the wedding. Our table names were right next to each other, and lovely Martin, who I'd met as he was driving along, had talked to us, and then we talked in the garden. And I guess he liked the conversation. So we went to sit down, and he moved your nameplate into his and his into yours. So when we did get to speak, was quite brief, but I think I bent your ear. Was so excited to talk to you. I talked about myself in what I feel was a lot of nerves. So I thought, I know how I can get to learn about Craig is I'll invite him on my podcast and get to learn more about you on here. So let's see how this goes, Craig.
Good to be here.
I'm so grateful. I want to start with the first question and then see where the conversation takes us, which is a time in your life and a moment where you knew you were meant for more. And having seen the extraordinary achievements that you've had and still have, I'll be really interested in a time when you had that real stirring and then took action.
It's a great question. There's a few times, to be honest, as I just think about the question now instantaneously, like my first reaction was to a time when I went doing yoga in Thailand, but I'll come on to that because it's probably the most significant month of my entire life. But really the first time I knew I was meant for more, or I knew I was more than what I was expressing, was when I must have been about 19, and I hadn't got a clue what I wanted to do. I was supposed to become a professional rugby player. It didn't happen. I was confused. I left college about 2 or 3 times, and I was working on a building site with 2 of my mates, and I was like the labourer on the building site, and it was all right in the summertime, but the wintertime came, and not there's anything wrong with that industry, I'm not saying that, but it wasn't for me. And I remember my mother used to shout up the stairs, "Craig, Barry's here to get you." Like, Barry was one of the guys, and it was 6 o'clock in the morning. I remember just crying my eyes out thinking, what the fuck am I doing, you know? Um, so working as a labourer on the building site was the best university I ever went to because I hated it, and it forced me to beg my father to support me again to go back to uni. And I went back to uni and I got distinctions and everything because I knew how to work hard. And then my kind of sporting career started. So that was and I had a very, from the outside looking in, I had a very successful professional career in professional rugby union, as a coach with many hats, a fitness coach, a life coach, a leadership mentor, coach mentor, high performance consultant. And I've seen the whole world really through professional rugby, but that was the first time I, I, I felt the pain that projected me into the search for a greater meaning. And that's significant, I think, Lisa, to what we're going to talk about, because I think you're going to ask me about men and men's work and
Mm.
what do men need to work on. And the thing with men is, and I guess it's the same for all humans, but I can only speak from a man's perspective, a man's work starts when he allows himself to feel his own pain
Tell me more.
instead of dancing around it. We grow up, we download what our society and our caregivers live like. We download a silent rule, different rules of life given to us by other people. We're constantly striving for a sense of belonging, and we tend to grow up and we identify that if I behave this way, I receive love and belonging. But I can't show any of that because it doesn't serve anybody. And whenever I behave that way, my mum's not happy, my dad's not happy, I get slapped in school, I get shamed, so I relegate it into the shadow. And then for me, we just live life and we think that we're doing the right thing, but then there's various moments come, uh, and there's a painful experience, and it's like, what am I doing? Who gave me these rules? For me, the most significant moment in my life was about 16 years ago, and I'm on a yoga retreat in Thailand, and I didn't really want to do yoga, but my wife at the time really wanted to do it, so I did it, and if I do something, I'll really go for it. So I really went for it, and it was the most significant month of my life, and it forced me in to feel what I'd been repressing for so many years. And in the first 2 weeks, I couldn't keep still. But when I was able to access some stillness and be with that stillness, everything came up. And on one hand, it was joy, bliss, happiness. Oh my God, the world's an amazing place. This is heaven on earth. Why did nobody tell me that I had this great capacity to love? And the polarity of that, everything came up around my past. Why do I hate my brother? Did he bully me? Why did I think my dad was a weak one? Man, why am I scared of my mother? All these kind of dark, if you like, stuff came up.
Yeah.
Um, but it's only because I allowed myself to feel. And when I allowed myself to feel, instead of skirting around and pretending I'm busy and workaholic and chasing kudos, when I actually allowed myself to feel, and be with it all, then the doorway opened to transformation. So that's what I mean about feeling our pain. But sometimes we don't know it's there until we stop.
Yeah. Yeah. You said so much there that I want to really curious about. Well, first of all, it's courage, that courage to be open to the absolute unknown. Because in what you're describing on that yoga retreat is you had no certainty of how you would be after the investigation or the curiousness of what you were feeling, what it was named and what it was labeled to and what it was connected to and what the story was with it and what the truth was behind that. So that takes so much courage. And I think, and I would love to know what your thoughts are. I think that's so many people do not want to go there for the fear of, if I unpack this, will I be left on my knees and broken? But is that true, or is there another reason?
Well, uh, I mean, ultimately, everything relates to our beliefs, doesn't it? And what we perceive. If we perceive something's going to be difficult, it's usually difficult. So we have to be careful about what we perceive and what we project out into the world. Um, yeah, from my perspective, and this is what I believe about men and women, but predominantly men, I guess, because that's what I can only talk from the lens of a man. Um, when we're in a crisis and when we allow that crisis to happen, no, let me retrace that. When we're in a perceived crisis, there's two ways we can go. There's the white door and the black door. So the black door is, oh my God, I've got a problem. This shouldn't be happening. I shouldn't be feeling these emotions that are coming up. It's wrong. What is wrong with me? But I can't feel it, so I'll drink more alcohol. I'll sniff more cocaine. I'll eat more sugar. I'll work more hours. I'll go to the gym for more days in the week. I'll scroll more on social media. I'll drink more alcohol. I'll watch more porn, and it just becomes a life of distraction because
Yeah.
it's difficult to be with our shadow. It's difficult to be with our shadow. We feel that it's going to crucify us. We feel if we bring all of ourselves into a relationship and all of our truth, then we'll be rejected and we'll be abandoned. And it takes us all the way back into those childhood wounds where we weren't accepted for being our authentic self. And we had to adopt a strategic way of behaving. Um, but the white door is, I can't do this anymore. I'm living a lie. This is really not, these are not my rules of life. This is not what I came onto this planet for. What an opportunity. Who can I be 5 years from now? Let's listen to more of these inspirational podcasts. Let's go to a workshop. Let's work with a coach. Let's change my friendship group and surround myself with people that are more on my kind of vibe. Let's reconnect with nature. Let's turn the TV off. Let's start to be still. Let's start to analyze why I'm so reactive in relationships, and really I want to be more responsive with conscious choice and awareness. So we all will experience some kind of crisis in life, and I think that's life or love or whatever you want to call it, God or spirit knocking on the door for us to evolve to the next stage of consciousness. But it can be perceived as a very, very scary place because it takes us all the way back to unconscious stuff that went on as kids.
Absolutely. So I've just done a workshop this morning, which is all about the value of understanding what's in your unconscious mind. And it blew their mind because people, and these are business leaders. This was a masterminding group and business leaders, and they loved it. They loved it. And I'm not technical with it. Um, oh, and of course I mean, I can see how present you are right now, but you've studied with, oh, I've forgotten his name.
John D.
And I've got,
Martini,
not that one.
Joe Dispenza.
That's it. Because I can feel with you, your mind is nowhere else but here. Right, all of you I can feel is here right now. And I think
Wasn't always that
we,
way.
no, what was it like?
When I was at that yoga retreat for the first 2 weeks, I couldn't keep still. Like I really couldn't keep still, and I was pretending to go to the toilet just to take a rest, and I just couldn't, I just couldn't keep still. I was just terrified. I didn't have any capacity in my nervous system to just be here.
Yeah. That takes some, I was going to say discipline, but that comes with quite a harsh, um, I'm going to use the word focus instead, because I think focus is one of the things that people are really needing help with. Or like, even if I think about this morning about me having to say, everybody focus, focus, but they gave me permission to say, where's your focus? Bring it right here, right now. But you'll be so familiar with where your focus is with all that high level, world class coaching you were doing with the teams you've worked with. And I've watched some of the interviews that you've done on your Dare,
Dare
on
to be
your
different.
podcast, Dare
Dare
to
to
be
be different.
different.
Yeah, 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 yeah. It's
And
worth a
and
it's
the
worth a Sorry, Lisa, carry on, carry on.
I just want to say, hearing, because if I start to, I will forget because I have got a kind memory patch on. Because, but the feedback that the men have for you is, oh, it's what people dream of people saying about them, and they say it to they say it to you, and you hold it in a way that in no way disempowers them. That, but their respect, their what's the word? Their admiration for you and what you brought to them and the game, and how what I understand is how you kind of rewrote the rule book of how teams train and strengthen. But what blew me away the most was their admiration and respect for you and what you bring. And I feel like I've taken us off track a little bit. Oh, I know what it was. Focus. And that's why I mentioned it, because of the focus. Instead of saying discipline, that it takes a lot of focus to bring the mind into presence. And we are so I feel like we are so incentivized out of focus.
Oh, for sure. I mean, the whole world of social media, advertising is trying to steal our attention and focus. It knows that we're kind of susceptible, So I never used to be, but now I'm ultra careful with what comes through my eyes, what comes into my ears, what goes into my mouth, what comes out of my mouth, who I spend time with, time in nature, what I see on social media, because there are a lot of attention thieves out there in the world, and our attention, obviously we're talking about presence here, aren't we? When I say the word attention, for me, our attention is our greatest tool as a human being. Whatever we place our attention on is where our energy goes and what we manifest. So the practice, whether you call it meditation or whatever we call it, and there's so many ways to do it, but the practice of reclaiming our attention and bringing it back is the greatest practice that any human being can do. And we can do that when we're walking, we can do that when we're talking, we can do that when we're standing, we can do that when we're lying in bed, we can do it through a yoga class, we can do it when we're making love, we can do it in a coaching session, we can do it when we're in the gym, but it's having the intention to reclaim our attention over and over and over again. If we practice that, because it does take discipline, but if we
Mm.
practice that, we become more self-regulated, and once we're self-regulated, and we have more resilience, we have a greater window of tolerance, and we're more present. Every single man that I've ever worked with, especially when I shifted what I do about 15 years ago and I became more of a kind of men's leadership coach, not only in rugby, 100% of all of the men I work with come to me, and when I ask them, what's the greatest area of growth for you as a leader right now? And they always say 100% of the time, well, my wife and my daughters and my kids are constantly telling me that I'm not present.
Okay.
And what men don't realize is that can be trained.
Mm.
Willpower is limited. You can't just say, right, from now on I'm going to be present at home, because our nervous system is just repeating old patterns. So a lot of what I do is it's a reclamation of attention,
Mm.
and that
Absolutely.
leads to greater sense of presence and a greater capacity to be with whatever comes at us and have enough space to respond with conscious choice and awareness, not react from an all wounded pattern.
Absolutely. And that with the presence comes self trust. In the work I do, and I'm interested in for you as well, there is a lack of self-trust out there. Because there's so much, I feel there's so much external referencing and validating that it has diminished people's self-trust. So they are over
So
filtering, they're over preparing, they're over doubting, they're putting a mask on. And I know that your work is about men being the best version of themselves, but that's not even right. It's not a version, because a version almost sounds like we swap CDs out. Being their truest selves.
it's about men listening to the calling and doing something about it.
Mm,
Because most men, especially in the midlife, they've got a knock on the door saying, "Mate, it's not working for you. This, wake up." And it's an answering to the calling, really. It's like, okay, I get it. I have to change. Nobody showed me how to change. Let's navigate this.
what will men notice in because I think that men, a woman's point of view, I think that men are human doings. I think they get on, they don't dwell on things knowingly, that outwardly. They want to provide solutions, they want to take action, they want to be in movement mode. And so for those men, how will they know? Is that true though? Is what I've said? It's an assumption. Is it true that generally men?
I think it's a generalization, but the challenge that women have, generally speaking, is in the strive towards equality.
Mhm.
Arguably, that striving of feminism towards equality, especially in relation to the corporate world, has led, and this is a very generalization, to a lot of women abandoning their own feminine.
Mhm. Mhm.
So I think the rise of the next stage of feminism has to be for men to step up and have enough capacity to be that masculine presence so that women in the world can be feminine and flowing and spontaneous. That's,
Because I think women want that, Craig. I Is that true? Do I
but
think
men
women
can
want
help
that?
that. What men don't realize that is they can help that. And for women to feel safe enough to really drop into their own feminine,
Hmm.
they need a safe man. They
Yeah.
need a present man. It's like, wow, this guy's got not going anywhere. I'm in my feminine right now. I don't know what's going on. I'm dancing around, and he's just here. He's not avoiding me. He's not fixing me. He's validating my experience. I can rest. I can rest in this. I can rest in this container of masculinity, whether
Hmm.
that's a partner, a husband, a boss in work, a friend,
Hmm.
whatever that is.
Because I think that's the great. I think we've displaced men. I was running a training day last week. Two of the men on it, there was four men, two women. They were leaders in a company. Two of the men on it were in their 30s, I think, ex-army.
Yeah,
It was like they didn't believe the unconscious mind existed, which makes all my work completely redundant, irrelevant,
yeah,
and a load of
yeah,
rubbish to them. One of them had said, I've been hurt. I don't have feelings. I don't tune into them. Done.
yeah.
Done.
Disassociation.
Yeah. Um, the other one was is in a relationship. His wife's going through a tough time, and his dad he's flexing and adapting himself around it. My feeling was, no, you need to stay as you are. Don't If she's wobbling, don't you wobble as well. You can't be two jellies. Stay as the rock. Stay being true to yourself. And all the time he was trying to do his very best to support his wife. But he said, I can't do right for wrong. Um, I say this, she says the opposite. I've tried doing this, I've tried doing that. And I said, have you tried being yourself? And it had not occurred to him. It's like, who am I? What do I stand for? And how can I hold this? And so, what's your um, wisdom for men that are trying to mold themselves around what the woman wants. Because in principle, it seems really considerate, really kind. But is that the answer?
It's not kindness. It's not kindness. I'm just writing a book. It'll be probably be out in March, and there's 17 chapters. You know, there's a lot in it. You know, there's chapters on trauma. There's chapters on trauma and how it affects our capacity to lead. There's chapters on radical accountability, relational presence, sexuality, speaking the truth. But when I was considering the title,
Yeah.
I looked at every single chapter and I thought, what is the common thread here for men? And it was obvious. And it relates to my life as well. That's where the chapter comes from. And so the title of the book is going to be called Tell the Fucking Truth. Because that's what men don't do. And that doesn't only come through words. Sometimes the truth involves not speaking. Sometimes the truth involves a boundary. Sometimes the truth involves living life in a different way. Sometimes the truth involves letting go of your job and stepping into what you love. But basically, every single man that I've met that has been challenged is not telling the truth. There's an incredible fear of rejection and humiliation, especially around women. And there's an immense, it could be the men that I attract, because it was definitely my experience growing up with the mother that I had, and some of the teachers in school as well that I had. But for years, I was terrified of a woman's anger, and I didn't realize it. I was terrified.
What would
And whenever
happen?
I would go into my own anger, because ultimately it wasn't anything to do with the woman. She was just reflecting the mirror back to me, that I had stuffed my anger so much down into my basement that every time it was reflected back at me, I either went on the attack or I checked out for a few days. So learning to be intimate with my own anger, which is for me, I know for some people it isn't, but for me it's a valid human feeling.
Hmm.
For me to be with my own and have a relationship with it, so it didn't burn people and it didn't burn me, was a journey in itself, and it involved a lot of physical exercises, postural work, breath work, bringing it up, learning to be with it, learning to meditate with it. And I can honestly say that I feel I've transcended my family pattern of not speaking the truth and erupting like a volcano. Because that's what I
Have you?
download, and it's what a lot of men download.
This is such a big subject, but the question that's just sprung into my heart is: have you done family constellation work?
I'm aware of it. I wouldn't be trained, but I'm aware of it, and somewhere along my journey, I've kind of been through that.
Mm, mm. Because that's a great process to speak um, the unspoken that you wish you'd said before, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
I've done
But
it
I've
years
done
ago.
all that.
Mum.
I've done all that I've done a lot. I mean, in psychotherapy they call it reactment, but in shadow work it's just called shadow work. I've done a lot of work where we've recreated scenarios from the past. You know, for
Yes.
example, I remember once going on a shadow work training week where I was training to be a facilitator in shadow work, but more kind of psychodynamic role play. And I remember a piece of work I did. It was in the We recreated a scenario with the people in the group where my brother, we were sat on the couch. No, I was sat on the floor in the living room. My brother was sat behind me, kicking me, which was a symbol of him bullying me. My father had his remote control, kind of keeping himself to himself, watching TV, which is a symbol of his avoidance. And my mother was kind of over here, kind of trying to get my dad's attention, kind of bickering and a lot of anxiety. And I remember it was a big piece of work, and I remember kind of having saying to my brother what I couldn't say to him, um, giving my mother back her fear, and actually hugging my dad because I believed he was a weak man, but I only believed my dad was a weak man because I was so close to my mother, and as a young boy, I believed everything negative that she said about him. So,
Mm.
so yeah, I'm just giving you that example of
And what
uh,
did
a piece of
if I
work.
what did you learn about your dad in that scenario? Because I'm obviously you don't think he was a weak man now.
No, I just learned that he was doing his best with the resources that he had, And what experiences do, there was a lot of drama in it, but whenever I've done something like that, it's so somatic
Yeah.
that something shifts on the inside.
Mm.
There's an expansion, there's a reclamation, there's I grow my capacity. And in life, then it leads to less reactivity because I used to be really reactive. You know, it was everybody's fault. He was an idiot. He was an idiot. Um, if a woman brought her anger, I'd just go into my little boy. So the work, if it's the right kind of work, it leads
Yeah.
slowly but surely to greater self-awareness, greater self-regulation, and more presence. There was times in my last long-term relationship when I wasn't present. There was just a piece of work that I needed to really do that kept coming up. And in my new relationship, I'm without getting cocky. It's like it's like I've got a new nervous system,
Mm, mm,
completely new nervous system.
mm.
She brought something yesterday. She was disappointed in a few things, and my nervous system was just calm. Whereas even a few years ago, it would have been on the attack because it didn't want to feel the shame underneath.
Yeah, I think when somebody brings disappointment, there's something in in disappointment itself. There's something quite triggering in it, isn't there, for
Yeah, of course.
everybody?
Yeah, it's like I'm
What
bad.
can you share a bit more about that? Not specific to yesterday,
Yeah.
but the
Well,
general
for
feeling of
for me, again, I can only talk about my experience, and it's probably universal, but to different degrees. But for me, especially around women, the first women I ever saw is my mother, of course.
mm,
Um, my mother's still alive. I love her. I have nothing to say to her. It's all been said. When I'm around her, I'm not the wounded little boy that I used to be. So I've done a lot of work around my mother, which is helping me in my relationship. But going back to my childhood, there was a part of my mum. I say a part because we're all different parts, and this helps people to be able to name it. There's a part of my mother that was bitter, um, invading my boundaries, made me feel small, said things that led to a feeling of shame. So there's a part of me that is still there sometimes, but I've got enough regulation to catch it. There's a part of me that whenever a woman brings disappointment, I'm bad, I've done something wrong kicks in.
mm,
So what's underneath that is shame. So that's why men have this stereotypical label
mm,
as being hyper defensive because the anger comes up to defend the shame. And men also have this reputation of being righteous, always wanting to be right. I remember asking a lot of women once at a school in Mexico. I used to teach at a yoga school. I did a retreat, a men's retreat, and there was a women's retreat. And I asked all the women, what pisses you off mostly about men? And all of them said that they always feel they have to win an argument and they always have to be right. And all these are just behavioral expressions that avoid feeling. They
yeah.
avoid feeling shame. They avoid feeling sadness. Something happened to me yesterday, and it never happened to me before with a woman. So with my current partner, she brought a bit of disappointment, and I was so present with it, and I was so regulated with it, and I was so curious about what that must feel like to her, and I allowed myself to feel the shame because I thought, wow, that impatient part of me is kicking in again. That when she spoke her words, we were looking into each other's eyes because she felt heard and seen, and tears just came running down my eyes. And it's not like I was trying to be sad or trying to make her think that I was taking accountability. They just came. It's like I allowed myself to feel what was underneath in that moment instead of going on the attack or trying to prove her wrong or blaming her or disagreeing with what she said, and that was significant for me because my mum wouldn't let me cry. I've heard my mother around other small children and babies um, having a challenge when they cry. So I couldn't cry for years and years and years and years. So for me to be able to be with my partner, and it's happened a lot to be honest, where the tears just come and the present stays, and I don't have to check out of that. It's quite revolutionary. It's quite big for me.
Yeah.
Men do need to cry
Yeah. Why do you think they don't?
because it wasn't acceptable for them to cry as kids. You know, men don't cry. Young boys fight and play and do sport. They don't cry. Crying's the domain of women. Let women do the crying, and men can be the aggressors. It's just this stereotypical crap that we download about what young boys are and what young girls are. Um, and then the schools that I went to were you got to be
Rough.
really careful. You've got to be really careful. You can't be seen to be crying. You got to do sport. You got to do sport. You got to have sex with women, and then you've got kudos. So you can't be doing any of that crying on business.
I always felt from a woman's point of view that men also hold back crying in front of a woman, particularly because they still want to be seen as I feel that it's probably unconscious as well as the one that the woman can rely on. But if you see me cry, then you won't be able to rely on me or come to me, or I won't be seen as the strong one, or um, a lot of fear of loss, I guess. And you say men should cry. Um, I agree. How, for any men that are listening, I don't even know the question to ask here, but it's more
No, the
how
answer.
can
I
they
know.
act?
I know the answer though.
You know where I'm going, don't you?
Yeah, I know. I
Right,
know the answer.
over to you.
Well, we've just downloaded, and it comes through years and years and years of download, cultural download in this lifetime. We've just downloaded that to be a man, you have to be strong. But what we've downloaded about strength is toughness and resilience and discipline and determination and provision of financial wealth
Yeah.
and fierceness. So in energetics, that I guess that is kind of masculine, is seen as being masculine. But what we don't realize, and this has been my journey, and I'm excited to go further into it, into eldership, is there's a whole other form of strength which
Mm.
is the opposite of that. It's the softness, it's the
Mm.
flexing of boundaries, it's the smiling, it's the letting go of the to-do list, it's making love in non-linear ways, it's thinking in non-linear ways, it's learning to move in non-linear ways, it's the domain of feeling sensations and vibrations in the body, it's bringing our attention back in the body, it's touch,
Mm.
it's ultimately it's softness. And what I realize, and I was scared for years, there's a perception among men that if they go into that domain, then they lose the other side of toughness. It's actually not true.
Mm.
For me, the more I reclaim the strength of my own softness,
Mhm.
the more the strength of my own toughness becomes efficient because it's not on all the time anymore. It's like I can switch on a very, very commanding presence if I want to. And it used to be my default. I used to be like that the whole time. But now, if I'm with a team, for example, or if I have to protect a boundary and I bring it on, it's really effective. But it's even
Because
more
it
effective because I've got softness around it and I can So something I talk about that you won't find in books is the work that I'm doing is trying to reclaim all these repressed parts of myself so that as a leader, I have more range. And if
Yeah.
I've got more range as a leader, I believe that I'm likely to be more trusted.
Yeah. Yeah.
If I can go
Which,
to my playfulness, if I can go to my sadness, if I can go to my fear, if I can go to my goofiness, if I can go sometimes to my commanding presence, if I'm sometimes linear and process driven and other times I'm non-linear, and I just think I can get to more people, have a greater impact in the world, and be trusted more.
I agree, because what they feel is they're getting you.
Yeah.
They're getting
And
you.
less triggered. That's a big
Yeah.
one for men. Less
Yeah.
triggered. Because if I've not reclaimed a relationship with my anger, I get triggered when I see anger. If I've not
Yeah.
had a love affair with my sadness, if somebody's sad around me, I get triggered. If I don't
Yeah.
have a comfortable, if I'm not comfortable in standing in front of a group and saying, guys, I'm really scared right now, whenever someone expresses anxiety, it triggers the life out of me. So this reclamation means that the world triggers us less, and that's a beautiful place to be.
Yeah. I mean, I think the world is showing us the work that,
Yeah,
Peter Crone, I don't know if you know Peter Crone,
I love him. I love him. Yeah,
it speaks about life will provide us with places and people that show us where we're not free yet.
yeah,
And I think that's the best way I've ever heard it. And, when some friends might say, well, that conversation we had, Lisa, you triggered me, so I needed to be quiet. No, I didn't trigger you. You
yeah.
just haven't looked after your trigger.
Of
You
course.
need to, that's your invitation to do that
You
work.
shone a light on it, didn't you?
Yeah, yeah. And so, because I'm pretty straight talking, because that's who
Yeah,
I am. So, all the fluffing and dressing something up is me trying to be what they need me to be. And it's an old version of me people pleasing, to prove that I'm popular, and therefore my stepmom wasn't right about me. So, I've gone on this mission of, but ultimately, um, I mean, I'm an introvert. I'm an app, but nobody would ever know it. But I refuel, re-nourish alone and quietly. Well, with my dogs. With, with my have you got your dog yet? Was it a Patterdale you were
not
getting?
yet, not yet, because I'm too nomadic for a dog yet.
And you're in
Yeah,
Chile at the
yeah,
moment. Um, and so, where were we? Triggers and them being our cues for, right, this is what needs your attention next. And I never think a trigger is gone. It's just layers and layers and layers of it healing. I mean, you're much more of a psychological expert than I am, even though it's my life. But I think it's layers of it that healed. And when people say, oh, I thought I'd healed that, I think it's an unreasonable expectation of themselves. It's also an opportunity to be hard on themselves when they say it, and almost like they think the work on themselves is a tick box done and moved on,
yeah,
instead of it's
yeah,
life's work.
yeah.
It's life's
It's
work,
not
and
for
life
me. It's
is
not
our.
about it's not about healing the trigger. For me, it's about having enough awareness to tend lovingly
Mm,
to the part of us that was triggered. It's like because then
mm.
when it comes up, we've already tended to it. It's already been seen, and it might come up, but it doesn't have the same intensity. There's a it's like a love affair, really. It comes up, and we've got to be able to reverse into that young part that's been triggered and give it some love.
I mean, that's quite. I'm just feeling into what you're saying, because and imagining how it is for someone who's more the layman. We swim in this world. We
Yeah,
we and so for somebody who's been triggered, or somebody made, I suppose they just say language like, somebody made me feel like, and they might go into, and I'm not having that, and oh, there's a big story that goes with it. I think that might be an identifier that they've been triggered. What would be your invitation to them when they get into that? They made me feel like that, and then here's the story, and I'm not having that. What would you say? that
Well,
would help them?
well, if you're talking from a coaching perspective, I'll answer it in two ways.
Yeah,
Um, so from a coach's perspective, I work with men. I work with men because I've been a man. I know what it means to be a man, and
of being a man.
I can, I'm safe as a man, and I can establish safety with men. So if it's a man that came to me for work, I just wouldn't accept it. I wouldn't sugarcoat it. I'd just say, mate, you're talking bullshit. Let's just examine this for a minute, and then I'd take him into it. So because sometimes that's what men need.
Oh yeah,
They just need someone who's brave enough to just get right in. So they
yeah,
know what they're getting anyway. When they would know what they're getting when they're coming to me anyway. And that is also from a place of love, by the way.
yeah.
It's also from a place of connected love. It's the other side of love that nobody teaches us about. Um, but if
And
it
I
was
think,
if it was layman, just a normal person, I'd just go slowly. I'd just go slowly and ask some probing questions, and I'd just use a kind of traditional, I guess, coaching approach with them, where I try to follow the lead and get them to come inwards on themselves. Get them to look at it differently, maybe disassociate and pretend they're looking down on it. So there's just different ways I would use. I would just go a lot slower.
if someone was listening, what would you advise they do for themselves? So that they've been triggered, somebody's made me feel this way, I'm
Mm,
not having it, they've created a story.
yeah,
What would you invite them to do, separate from us?
yeah.
Um,
To be honest, Lisa, I would say for them to do, and this I guess this is a bit radical in terms of the age that we work in. I would say step one, that like they can't have access to me. I would just say step one, um, just spend a few minutes every day with the gaze on yourself, analyzing all your triggers, and just contemplate if it could be something within you, because the pattern keeps coming up, and I would get them to maybe list the triggers, or the people that trigger them, analyze their own mindset, and I would get them to understand that maybe before they even meet these people, they're already creating a story in their heads. And then I would ask them to go to ChatGPT, and I would just say, talk to ChatGPT, tell it what you're triggered, give it as much information you can about your triggers, and ask it to create for you a 30-day inventory for you to, number one, understand the root of your triggers, number two, understand how you can feel them a little bit more, and number three, how you can transform and have a greater relationship with them. I would just tell them that.
yeah, I think it's okay if we've understood it as a trigger.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's part of the help is, oh, I was triggered, but it's when we
Mm.
don't and we
Yeah.
see it as somebody else has done
Yeah.
something.
Yeah. That's
That's
just a
where it,
deflection.
and it's also
Yeah.
disempowering because the great thing is if we
Yeah.
are triggered, and I think
Yeah.
there's a lot of people being triggered
Yeah.
at the moment, which is why I think this is valuable that we're talking about it. I think
Yeah.
if we're triggered and but not aware of it, then we're
Yeah.
constantly at other people's
Yeah.
will. Our feelings are in somebody else's hands. But if we're able to,
Yeah.
I would say, if how somebody would know that it's a trigger. How
Mm.
would somebody know
Yeah.
that this is a trigger? What would you
Yeah.
say?
Well, if you look into the world of psychology, I remember once reading some stuff that a guy called Ken Wilber had wrote, famous psychologist in America, and he would say there's a few guidelines. He would say if the trigger, if the feeling of the trigger inside of you outweighs the actuality of what the other person was actually doing, then it's a trigger. Or if the trigger always comes with the same person over and over again, then it's a trigger. It's activating something in you. Um, if there's a huge story around the trigger, then it's something that you need to look at. Because if it was just an initial reaction, it wouldn't linger.
Yeah, yeah,
You can say to me, you're an idiot, And I wouldn't get triggered because I don't have any history with you. It doesn't take me back to childhood or anything like that. It just comes in, oh, and it leaves. But I also believe that in order for someone to have enough awareness to realize that it could be something within them, I do believe that that isn't accessible to everybody at the same time. What I mean by that, Lisa, is I never used to, but I do believe in levels of consciousness.
Yes.
I do believe in the theory of levels of consciousness, and I do believe that when your consciousness is here, probably through a life or lifetimes of heavy trauma, unfortunately, you don't believe you have conscious choice and awareness. The guys sleeping on the street in Manchester city centre, bless them, they don't believe they have another option. But with the evolution of consciousness, we have more choice and awareness here. And then the higher the level of consciousness, it's like, wow, I am the master of my own destiny. The pictures I make, everything I tell myself, everything I listen to, the emotions I evoke from the inside out, what I vision, I'm walking into my future. That's radical self accountability. It all sits with me, but I don't think, and I think there's a greater intelligence going on that we don't know as human beings. We can't grasp it, and not everybody has access to that until the level of consciousness increases. And I don't want that to sound like I'm arrogant, but I do believe it. I never used to.
Yeah. Yeah. I know we haven't got long left. I would love to know more about. Well, let me ask this question first. Is that somebody locked in your cupboard, or is that
No,
an animal?
it's not a monkey. I think it's some kind of bird.
It sounds like a peacock.
Yeah.
Um, what is it? I really want to know this. So this is a Lisa question rather than I speak on behalf of all women. Um, what is it that women, am I phrasing this right? Let's say me, because I don't want to assume that women are doing anything wrong. What is it that I could be, as I've been a woman, what is it I could be doing wrong with a man that would stop him from being in his masculine? So I deliberately I wanted this not to be about other women. So, and I don't mean
Yeah,
from your own personal experience.
yeah, yeah.
Although if you, we met once at our wedding.
So, so, so by pure nature of being a woman, you have a purpose in life. If you choose, the giver of life. The giver of life, the giving birth. Um, so you have this kind of God-given purpose. You birth new life. You provide new life. So men don't have that. So by default of being a man, there's a quest. There's a quest to be of use to the world. That's why men seek purpose more than women. That's why men want to provide. They want to show that they can provide. Also, by nature of being a man with a penis, right?
Yeah, hear you.
There's a giving. It's a giving. We want to give. We want to penetrate the world. We want to bring something into the world. By the nature of being a woman, there's a receptive quality to a woman. So by default of being a man, we want to give. We really want to give. So every man, and again, it can come to levels of consciousness, for example, as well. Some men are more needed than others, but there's a part of every single man that wants appreciation for giving. There's a part of every single man that wants appreciation. It's difficult for men when they have kids because the women feels all the love hormones through the child, she gets met, and the man feels empty, and the man feels like he doesn't belong anymore. He's not needed. He's not needed. Now, he'll try and be more of a financial provider to make up for that, but what he really wants is for his woman to need him, for his
Mm.
woman to occasionally lean into him, to ask for a hug, to hold her. And when that doesn't happen, a man can go crazy, absolutely crazy. It feels like he's not needed. It's a real kick in the teeth for men. And there's other little things as well, interrupting a man when he's talking, not validating him, same stuff that men do with women. But being appreciated is really big for men, and also knowing that she needs him. Those are the two biggest ones. If he feels like through her actions that she doesn't need him, he'll be so dysregulated that he looks for love elsewhere. Porn, alcohol, work, validation in work, validation through financial status. But really, he wants to be validated by his woman.
That is so interesting. It is so interesting because I'll speak from my own point of view, and I have heard other women say it is. I mean, I certainly have felt this need to, when with a man, to not look like I need him
Yeah.
because we don't want to be needy, but also that we choose, so that the choosing to be with the man is better than needing him. So that there's this whole contradiction from what you're saying, because we're trying to be like, look, I don't want you to think that I need you. I actually choose to be with you, when really what they need is to know that there's a role, I guess you're saying here.
100%. The man needs to know that he's got a role to play in that woman's life. The other thing to say here, it's a very general way of looking at it, is if I'm in a relationship with you and let's say you're in your masculine, you're in your logic, you're in your head, and I'm in my head, we can probably build a business together, right? Or there's times when you're in your feminine and you're feeling loose and you're feeling a bit goofy, and sometimes you're teary and sometimes you're laughing, and I am as well. We can probably have a bit of fun and cry together, but to truly be in union and be able to love each other, whether that's through a myriad of different ways to be intimate, there has to be polarity. And polarity can only exist when there's a masculine and there's a feminine. Like if I'm in a relationship with you and we're always in a to-do list,
Yeah.
we're never gonna make love. And when I say make love,
Or
I just don't.
action, action, action.
When I say make love, I mean union through the eyes, union through our words, union through our touch, union through our energy, union through our sex organs, whatever that looks like. It's never
Yeah.
going to happen. So there's always, and that's what human beings are crying out for. We're crying out to be loved. We're crying out to be in union. And you can sometimes be in your masculine, I can sometimes be in my feminine, but really, most men want to be here, most women want to be there. And then we can dance. Then there's this dance. It's like when that dance occurs, it's like if my partner comes over to me and she puts her head on my shoulder and my chest and she asks me to hold her, I feel like crying my eyes out. It's like, oh my God. It's like, is there a greater purpose than this in life? But if a man can't feel that, he goes and searches for purpose in his vocation. He puts his mission statement on a board. But correct me if I'm wrong, Lisa, what is there a greater purpose in life than a man learning how to love a woman? And that also means learning to love the woman in himself, learning to love his partner or his wife, learning to love women in general, and learning to love Mother Earth. This world is in disarray because men have forgotten how to love women, which includes the planet, period. But we're pissing in the wind, looking for a divine purpose through our job and our vocation. And we're just avoiding the responsibility of learning to love women again. And making that, and a lot of men can't do that because they can't control their urges, they can't control their lust, they don't know how to love. So the shift from lust to love is another podcast.
Got to book you in for it, because this is the depth of what you're talking about is so big that it's landing on me interviewing you or having a conversation with you whilst and the other thing, that we go so far from where we need to be in search of something as well, don't we? I used to do sales, and was trained by Dale Carnegie, and he would say, um, how many customers are you passing on the way to your sales appointment? That is in my mind now, for how often do we go right the way over there instead of doing the work that's right here? You know, God, I could talk to you forever. I want to get two more questions in. Um,
Let's do
one
it if you
is
want.
one is right. I'll go to the second one. Uh, I want to know about the work you do with men, because I know a lot of men leaders, and I think, and I don't know whether you're open for business. Um, how can they work with you, and how are you? I mean, I get that you're straight talking, no nonsense. Um, how do they access you, and what does it look like?
Well, it's not that I'm no nonsense. I'm strong and I'm soft. I'm gentle and I'm strong. I'm hard and I'm soft. I'm both really. What does it look like? I do one-to-ones. I tend to like to work with men that are not fluffing it. They want to go on. So a lot of my clients, I've been working with them for a long time. Um, some of it's online, some of it's in person. Um, I'm just in the process of writing a book that's coming out soon. I'm also in the process of creating my own, which has been in the pipeline for years, men's leadership coach certification pathway, because I believe that I can have more impact in the world by training men and women to coach male leaders. So that's going to be in 4 stages. There's going to be a 3-day in-person facilitation training, and then a 6-month become a coach training, and then a 5-day retreat to become a master coach, and then we'll probably do some kind of franchise model on the back of that. So that's kind of coming. But I
How
also
soon? How far away is that? Sorry to
uh,
interrupt. I
well,
just don't want to forget.
the first 3-day facilitation training is going to be April 24th, 25th, 26th, and let me have a look 1 second. Oh, I can't remember. I think the 6 months training starts in June.
Okay, send me the details.
I will.
Um,
But I'm also open to work with teams. I mean, chilling out, working for World Rugby. I've recently done quite a number of workshops with corporate leadership teams around human connection and getting the best out of each other. Yeah, that's kind of how I work. And to find me, there's CraigWhiteMentoring.com. You can find my podcast, Craig White Dare to Be Different. You'll find Craig White Mentoring on Instagram, and yeah, if you go to my website, I send out a weekly email with lots of juicy information. I think that's everything.
so, well, I've got two questions, and one is, um, yes, te teams. What are the recent outcomes that? Because I can imagine you working with teams as well, like corporate teams. What sort of outcomes that have been tangible as a result of enhanced relationships from your training? Can you talk about?
I mean, yeah, I mean, ultimately, people often don't get this link, but there's a definite link. Ultimately, it's improvement in performance. Whether
Yeah.
that performance is money or whether that performance is being a better manager or a better dad or a better husband, it's an increase in output, so to speak, because there is a relationship between deeper human connection and
Yeah.
greater outputs. You know,
Yep.
if we deepen connection with teams here and
Mm,
teams start to feel safer with one another, they're more likely to fiercely support each other, but also fiercely challenge each other, which
hmm.
leads to accelerated learning, which leads to moving into future potential, improved performance on the
Absolutely.
back of that. So, human connection is the root, really, of improved performance. So, there is a relationship between the gooey stuff and the top end,
Drives me mad when people
which
call it
I'm
soft and
guessing you
fluffy.
appreciate when you work with corporates and stuff.
Yeah, because that connection remove first of all, it makes everybody feel like, oh, we're all the same, which is what came out of today. And then the relief that they're all the
Mm.
same, the relief that they can be themselves because they're not having to be guarded or masked or show up in a certain way so that nobody's getting they can drop the stories. I always think about this as well, which is in right. I've got a damn nerve saying what I'm going to say next. In rugby, the player does not want to be checking before throwing. And so I feel that in businesses and in teams that there's too much checking. Well, just trust I'm doing my job, throw it to me. Give me the task. Don't check I've done the task. And there's that kind of formation that goes with the red arrows, with sport, that I'm right where I'm meant to be. If you trusted, you wouldn't need to check, waste time checking, lose your focus, and slow everything down. And so there's that, and then that irritation that goes with being checked and not trusted to do your job, and how that actually fragments the whole foundation of the team. So I can completely see. I did all right with that little analogy, didn't I?
I think the greatest piece of leadership advice when we're trying to get better, maybe not at the top end. I can imagine a pilot watching this, but I think the greatest piece of leadership advice a manager or a coach can give is go and get it wrong.
Yeah.
Because a human being is a shit scared of getting it wrong.
Yeah.
That's why we live in that high anxiety world.
And something that ties right back to something that was said at the beginning, um, they are about getting it wrong. They're in avoidance of getting it wrong and avoidance of being disappointed, but
Mm.
not having somebody else disappointed of them, but them being disappointed. So when I work with people and said, I want you to set the most amazing goal that you would shit yourself over, but
Yeah,
you know you
yeah,
want it. You know,
yeah.
and if you're saying that you're going to do something in 5 years, what does it feel like we say you're going to do it this year? And what does it bring up in you? And when I get them to be in the experience of the success of the goal, I do a timeline that you'll be very familiar with, where they experience the goal. Um, when they're on the step one, which is how do you feel in the present moment about it, there's a lot of, well, I don't set this goal because I don't want to be disappointed. And when I say something, tell me what disappointment is. Do you lose a limb? Are you left with one eye? What is
Yeah,
it? It's
yeah.
just it's a feeling, but can you describe that feeling? Well, it doesn't feel very good, right? What is it? A thought then, rather than a thought that's creating the feeling, and you're going to shrink this thing right down because you're in avoidance of the feeling. So disappointment actually is quite an incredible deterrent, isn't it? When we think about not wanting to.
Information, isn't it? But yeah, we don't see it that way. We see these feelings as great and these as demonic, and it's ultimately feelings are just information, aren't they?
Yeah, yeah. Right. Oh, my last question. My last question is, with the work that you're doing with men, what difference do you think you're going to make in the world?
Um, to be honest, I'd be happy if when I die that there's more women on the planet walking around who feel safe than they do right now. It's as simple as that.
That is a nice nutshell.
Because men don't realise that by the default of being born as a woman and all and the ancestral stuff that comes through that, women don't feel safe. So that, for me, is a tangible mission for women to
Thank,
feel safer.
thank you. I thank you on behalf of all women. Thank you so much. I would love another conversation. You get your people to talk to me.
I will do.
Thank you, Craig, for such an incredible conversation. I've loved every second of it. You've been so generous with your time. And can you
Thank you.
send me some links so I can include it?
I will. I will.
Have a great time in Chile. Good
Do I
luck.
need to stay on for it to upload or not?
Yeah, let me just press.
Oh, it's almost there.